Like people just don't understand that the easy route that they're taking is going to lead to a much more difficult life in the future. And some of us that have similar success stories, similar backgrounds, and came from rough places, just came to terms with that finally. And it's time to put in some work and put some challenges in front of me so I can level up.
This is the Just Real Quick podcast, where we discuss how to succeed in the world of sales through confidence, discipline, and consistency. Are you ready to be intentional about creating more opportunities that lead to sales? Tune into this episode right now for the latest insights and strategies that will take your sales game to the next level. I'm your host, Jefferson K. Rogers.
Welcome back to another episode of Just Real Quick. Thank you guys for checking in. We got some exciting stuff to go over today. I got a co-host in the studio, Mr. Jeff Fieldstad. And over the Zoom call, we got a good friend of mine and a financial expert in taxes, real estate, one of my mentors, Mr. Dave Allred. You guys are going to want to stick around for this whole thing. There's going to be some nuggets here from an expert in door-to-door and has become an expert in real estate through a lot of intention, a lot of focused effort, and has now acquired an incredible portfolio of real estate, both in fourplexes and industrial and in multifamily, and he's gotten into all kinds of other asset classes we'll let him talk about. But welcome to the show, Dave. Appreciate you coming on, brother.
Thanks, Jeff, bro. Excited to be here, man. Round 2 with you, second podcast, and excited to be here and create value. So let's go,
man. One of the reasons I wanted to put this together is because I've learned so much from you. I had early on in my sales career learning what to do with my money. And I didn't have a whole lot of good examples. And one thing that you can do in your life to take control of that is surround yourself with quality people that are doing incredible things, that have done incredible things in the past. Dave is one of those guys. And Dave, I learned a lot from you early on about the aspects of business and working with a team and culture and got a lot from that aspect. But today I want to talk about how do you portray this vision to a new rep or somebody who's been around a couple of years that just doesn't quite understand the financial game and real estate. What are some of the things that you did and some suggestions you have for people to get started to better understand it?
Yeah, you bet. So first off, I would say it's not anybody's fault that they don't have, maybe financial literacy and understand some of the basics with investing and financial management. The truth is that the public school system doesn't teach any of that. And, we don't need to go down that rabbit hole as to why I think that's the case. But the bottom line is that financial freedom creates self-agency. It creates, true freedom in our lives. And maybe that's not what Big Brother is wanting for us, right? So, but it regardless if it's, if we were taught that or not, I mean, let's be honest, even in universities, we don't learn about the tax code. We don't learn about tax strategies, even how to, balance a checkbook, how compounding interest works, all those things, how real estate, the 5 wealth drivers of real estate. And so with that being said, though, the future is our responsibility. And, we live in an incredible time where we can literally access everything at the tip of our fingers. And so, for me personally, I grew up in a very low income, poor home. We never talked about money, business, finances, any of that. And, but after my first year of summer sales, I made $31,000. And the next year I came back as a sales manager, made $156,000. And I had no idea what to do with that capital. And so I just went to my CPA and I said, hey, what are your wealthy clients doing to mitigate their tax liability and to create wealth? And he said, basically everybody's investing in either real estate or into businesses. And I was like, hey, real estate sounds cool. I don't know anything about it, but I'm gonna become a student of the game and just be like a sponge and just soak in as much as I could possibly learn about real estate. And so, luckily I was around some guys like, the owners of Vivint, Todd Peterson and whatnot, and spending a lot of time flying around private and, in boardrooms. And I was able to really, learn a lot from them and kind of pick their brain as to how they approach real estate and why they love real estate and how they're winning at the game of real estate. And, that really, it was the beginning of this journey. It's now about 20 years into it. And I absolutely love real estate. I'll say that out of all the investments that I've done over, 200 something investments that have gone full cycle. Real estate is by far my favorite asset class, my favorite investment class. And there's a lot of reasons why. We could talk, for an hour as to why that's the case, but I'll keep it simple and say I love the fact that in real estate, it's a hard asset. It creates real cash flow, creates amazing tax benefits, and you very rarely are going to lose all your capital in a real estate investment. Because again, it's brick and mortar, it's a hard asset. Whereas when I invest in crypto or private equity or even in the stock market and bonds, you really do have a 100% downside risk of your capital. And so for me, I love winning, but at the same time, I realized actually I hate losing more than I love winning. And so for me, it's really just about not losing. And Warren Buffett says it best. Warren Buffett's considered the all-time greatest investor. He has two rules to investing. Rule number one is don't lose your money. Rule number two is don't forget rule number one, because it really is, one step forward, two steps backwards. And I see it so often, especially with a lot of guys in door-to-door sales where they don't have a lot of, financial experience in investing. And they end up investing in, their buddies' new startup or some, NFT or some speculative crypto investment. And we end up losing our capital. And I've seen it so much, man, over the years. I've managed 121 sales teams across 41 states, thousands of sales reps. And it's unfortunate, man, because frankly speaking, door-to-door sales is one of the hardest ways to make a dollar. There's nothing really fun. I'll be honest, at least for me, there's never anything fun about the knocking doors portion of the job. And so if we're going to go out and work that hard to get ahead financially, it'd be nice to be able to help people invest that in a smart way that's going to compound, it's going to grow for them and create that freedom versus just, going out and investing in speculative investments. And so, Jeff, this is a long answer, but one last thing I just want to mention on that is what's really been hard to watch in this space is actually, as you see guys increase their earning opportunity and their income goes up, unfortunately, what most guys have done is their cost of living, the quality of life goes up proportionally with that. And so they're actually not getting ahead. They're not saving. They're not investing. They're just getting some cool snowmobiles and a badass truck and a new lift and, lifestyle, right? and it's not actually getting ahead. In fact, it's actually getting them in a worse position because if that earning opportunity was to go away for some reason, now their cost of living is so much higher than it was previously.
Yes. So pay close attention, you guys. This is coming from some obvious experience. He's seen this happen over and over and over throughout his career, led over 120 sales offices throughout the country. And this is just a common thing. So if you're going through it, like Dave said, it's not your fault. I was brought up in a similar circumstance and never talked about money, know nothing about all of the amazing benefits of the real estate and tax mitigation. I learned that all out of surrounding myself with good people. And you can take control over that. One of the things I was thinking about as you were talking there, Dave, is it's really, once you start getting exposed to it, it's not that hard to get involved. And especially some of these guys they're in a difficult industry, but one of the things about that is you get paid really well. So we know guys that are coming from a background like we came from that never had money. All of a sudden they have money and they don't know what to do with it. And a lot of them have good intentions, but everybody around them is doing stupid shit too. So they're just following suit. So first step, get around some people that are doing something different so you can get exposed to it. That's what worked for me. And then I just started asking questions. And it's really not that difficult to get involved. And I'd love to hear from Jeff on this too, because he comes from a financial background. And if you can start down the right path and start building the habits and discipline, you can change your life with relatively low amount of money.
Yeah, I think one of the things Dave said that was good is actually it's the hardest way to make money. And Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, but probably that is what made you think, hey, I'm going to save and invest my money so I'm not having to do this for the rest of my life and go knock on the doors, right? To me, it did a couple of things, and it's why I always lived way below my means so that I could invest my money. One is it gave me a big chunk of money to invest, but two, it seemed like the more money I got invested, the more excited I got about investing, which also made me want to get better at my skill set and make more money so I could continue to invest more money. Is that kind of what got you to a place to where you got excited about investing? Is one, you didn't want to be on the doors forever, and two, you started realizing the excitement of actually the compounding effect of what happens when you're wise with it?
Yeah, Jeff, hey, that's a great question. I'd say first and foremost, it was really, once I came to an understanding that what Dave Allred's root motivator, like at my core, what I really want is freedom. I want a ton of freedom to be doing what I want to do when I want to do it with the people I want to be doing it with.
What a great driver.
Yeah, when I realized that, and I was like, man, you know what? This is going to fire me up. And this door-to-door sales opportunity is really just an accelerator. It's a way to fast track where I am today to where I really want to be and having this dream lifestyle. And so once I realized that, then where it got really fun was to put that in writing. And I created what's called lifestyle design. Jefferson knows all about this. It's a 10-step process of all my life of how I'm going to create ultimate freedom. And that's in my health, my time, my family, my businesses, spiritual, finances, personal development, experiences, etc. And so I've written out this entire process, which, by the way, if anybody wants a copy of that, if you go to my website, daveallred.com, under the resources page, you can download a free copy of that template. Happy to share it with you guys. It's been incredibly powerful for me to create a very clear understanding on what I want in my life and how I define a life well lived and how to create that freedom. And so having that clarity is such a big motivator, because I know why I'm going to go out and work so hard on a Saturday instead of watching football or playing video games or whatever everybody else is doing. And I spent 16 years of my life, grinding literally almost every Saturday and traveling away from my family 100 days a year, right? And doing a really difficult job. And it was because I knew that was going to create this freedom, and I love this quote that, if you do what others are unwilling to do, you can then have the lifestyle others cannot. And so it's that whole idea of delayed gratification. But I think that's really a lost art form today, delayed gratification versus instant gratification. But we're kind of going on a tangent there. Going back, Jeff, to your question, number one is freedom, man. Like, that was so motivating for me. And the second thing that, really forced me to be hyper-focused on my investments was I found out that, so many people, when they start making good money, say you have, 6 figures sitting in your checking account, you become complacent, and it's hard to keep that drive and that fire as to why to go out and go grind on a Saturday, or why to get that 3rd, 4th, 5th sell when you've already gotten, you've had a great day so far. And what I found is by having a really clear vision of what I want to create financially for my family, my future family, it really helped me to overcome any type of complacency and feeling like I'm good and becoming, kind of coasting. And by the way, for any sales leaders listening to this podcast, I would highly encourage you to sit down personally, do it on your own accord. And then secondly is to have all of your sales reps go through this process of creating their own, lifestyle design, creating their own financial blueprint of what they really want to create through this opportunity. Because, if you, as a sales leader, if you can help connect what this person really wants in their life, and you connect that to this opportunity at JKR, and you show them the line and how to fast track that becomes highly motivating. And I found a lot of success with that. So I just want to share that.
Right on, man. Yeah, that's one of the things that sticks out to me about the change in my behaviors and these many, many examples that we have in people's success stories of very similar. Everybody has a little bit different variation of it, of how they get themselves fired up to go out there and do consistently difficult things.
Yeah. And I think not get caught up with the crowd, right? And I think, Dave, I know a lot of the guys that you were around during the early days of your career, and you were around some studs, but there was also a bunch of people around you that maybe didn't make wise decisions. What do you think caused you to stay hyper-focused on these things and not get caught up with the rest of what everybody else was doing that didn't make these great decisions?
It's such a good question. I think that there's so many answers. I think the number one thing would just be intentionality. I think that everybody indoor sells to say, I want to make a lot of money. I would like to get rich. I'd like to get some freedom. I'd like a better life. But that's fine. But what I learned is, so I used to do, I call it a one-on-one performance interview. I sit down with my salespeople, spend 20 minutes with every single person in the office and ask them, what's your holy cause? What's your core motivator? Where are you at? What are your goals? Where are you at? What's the hardest challenges you have, et cetera, et cetera. And what I'd always find out is when I say, hey, what are your primary goals here? is people always say, I want to get rich. I want to get a home. I want to get married. I want to pay for, a wedding ring, whatever, a sports car. But you go a little bit deeper and you say, okay, well, what exactly do you want in your home? What exactly, do you want in this? What's that mean? And you dive deeper into it, and it gets really ambiguous and very fuzzy, really, really fast.
Yep.
And I think for me, maybe a superpower was spending the time to really go deep and internal and say, okay, what exactly do I want in this dream home? What exactly do I want for my children? What exactly do I want to be able to be doing when I'm 80, 90 years old? I want to be snowboarding with my kids when I'm 90.
Was that the beginnings of the lifestyle design? Was back in those days? It was just really vivid goals.
That's right. Because I feel like if you can tie that vivid intentionality to it, where you can imagine it, you can picture it, it creates emotion, right? And you can, like, I've got 4 beautiful daughters, and a big motivator for me was I want them to be able to have an amazing wedding and an amazing honeymoon. And I'm picturing them like this beautiful dress, like beautiful,
So
event,
powerful,
right? And for me, that's like, that fires me up, man. I've been to 59 countries. I want to be to 200 countries in my life, right? Like that. I love travel. And so I have a map of every country I've been to, and the next 50 countries I want to go visit. Snowboarding when I'm 80, 90 years old. Like, I'm committed to making that, being healthy enough to be able to do that, right? But it's envisioning that on a granular level. There's something really special about that, man. And I can't really explain it, if it's law of attraction or whatever you want to call that. But it comes so much easier. And frankly speaking, it also makes the work more fulfilling because there's purpose behind it.
Mm-hmm.
There's intentionality and purpose behind it versus just, I want another dollar in my bank account. I want another zero on my net worth.
Yeah, I think it's also giving you a result that you planned on, which you planted a seed, you watered it, you got this result, and then you realize, like, hey, if I did that with this thing, I could do that with anything in my life, right? It starts building on this belief, which I think becomes not only a belief, a habit, but a self-fulfilling prophecy, where you start realizing, like, man, anything I set my mind to, anything I work towards, I can actually make happen, which builds a tremendous amount of confidence in your life, right?
I love it. I agree. And I'd also add to that one more thing, which is just, which plays along those same lines, which is just really being hyper focused on your goals. I mean, so when I was 30 years old, I've been talking about wanting this financial freedom. And I remember sitting down on a Sunday for 4 hours. I was like, all right, I've been talking about this for a long time, but there's a big difference between wanting and being committed to something. And so I said, I'm committing to true financial freedom. And so I call it, the financial freedom equation. I'm happy to share this as well. Actually, it's on my website. You go into the resources page, but it's a simple equation. It's a spreadsheet, and you figure out, what's your cost of living? Like, what's your, how much money do you need in passive recurring income? And passive income basically means you're not trading your time for the money, right? You're making money while you're sleeping. And so let's say it was $200,000 and you have true financial freedom. The next line item on the spreadsheet is, how much current passive income do I have? At the time it was 0. And the next line item is, how many years am I willing to commit to achieving financial freedom? And for me, it was 10 years. And so basically I needed to create $20,000 of passive income per year for the next 10 years. And that would create the $200,000 of recurring passive income and have true financial freedom. And so I wrote that all down in a spreadsheet. And then, I love real estate. So I was like, okay, well, how many rental properties do I need to be able to achieve that? And the answer was 40. And so I created my mantra of 40 by 40. So 40 rental properties by age 40. Wrote that down. I made all my passwords 40 by 40. The back screen on my iPhone, 40 by 40, and really internalize that. And every single Sunday I'd sit down and I'd study that, look exactly how I'm doing with that goal. And there's something special about writing down your goals. I think that it holds you accountable, but it also helps you see those incremental improvements otherwise you would miss. And, they say you're 42% more likely to hit your goal if it's in writing. And I think there's real power that comes from that. And so anyway, so I hit that goal when I was 36 years old. That's actually when I retired from my 16-year leadership career and went full-time into real estate. And I adjusted my goal to ownership in 1,000 doors by age 40. And I spent the next 4 years working on that goal, hit that goal when I was 40. And then launched Axia Partners, our real estate firm, and have been fully focused on that for the last 3 years. But main point there being, Jeff, my answer there was intentionality, being super clear on why you're doing what you're doing and operating with a purpose, and then actually measuring that progress as you go.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Incredible. There's these, I imagine when you were 30, when you finally decided to sit down and come to terms with all these things that you knew you needed to do, but hadn't really fully done it, and you spent that 4 hours doing it. There's a lot of people in that position. And how quickly did you notice things start happening faster once you decided to actually sit down and do that?
It's interesting. It's a little bit slow, and then all of a sudden it happens really, really fast. It goes back to the delayed gratification concept. Like it's hard, man, because like, you get the clarity, like, okay, I'm going to go do this, and you're motivated, and it doesn't happen the next day. It doesn't happen the next week, next month. But there's something special about it, man, called a compounding effect, a flywheel effect, whatever that is. Like the flywheel effect is basically you have this big, heavy flywheel, and it's really hard to get it started. Then you start getting momentum, and it starts going faster and faster and easier and easier and easier.
Yeah.
The law of Big Mo. And, I think that so many people, they fail or they lose motivation because they don't see that instant gratification, man. They don't get the dopamine hit from it. And, I'm a dad of 4. And one of the things I'm really trying to teach them right now is delayed gratification, and to really lean into that concept because, or you call it the law of the harvest. You reap what you sow, but it takes a long time to actually see the harvest and the fruits from your labors. And so I feel like if children or young people, even millennials, if they can really lean into that, understand that, they have such a big competitive advantage to everybody else right now in modern day culture. So those that have the grit, the tenacity, purpose, and they can lean into delayed gratification, man, those people are going to change the world.
Yeah, I think that's powerful. I think also one of the things that I'd like to ask you in this process, because a lot of people, if you're in door-to-door sales or any kind of sales for that matter, you have the ability to increase your skills, close more sales, make more money, where, maybe the person who just has a 40-hour-a-week job and they've got a salary, it's not as easy theoretically for them to go build what you were trying to build. So the power, I think, behind door-to-door sales is you could create these goals, and then you could increase your skills, increase your activity, increase your income, and hit those goals really as fast as you wanted. What would be your advice to people who are maybe newer to door-to-door sales, or maybe they haven't got that clear on their plans and what they really wanted at this point? Because I'm sure that started happening to you as you started getting really clear that your skill set went up. You started investing not only just more time in learning the real estate investing side, but also the skill set of leadership, closing more sales, developing people,
raising your income so you got more money to invest in real estate.
Exactly.
So the first thing that comes to mind on that is do hard shit. Like that's been almost like a motto in my life. I look back through my childhood, my leadership career, knocking doors, even, running a real estate fund. Like it's really been there's always an easier way and a harder way. And I feel like human nature is always take the easy way and, the course of least resistance. And what I found in my own personal life is that when I take the harder route, not only do I get more personal development, I'm going to be around, I'm going to, iron sharpens iron. I'm going to increase my own personal grit. A lot of the times, that's where the real profit margin is, right? In door-to-door sales, you can make so much money, but people just don't want to go out and do that. And that's why we have the earning opportunity. In real estate, a lot of the times, the best real estate deals with the most profitability are the deals that have some hair on them. They're still scary. They're not just a clean down the middle of the fairway deal. And so that scares people away from it. But a lot of times some of the very, very best deals I've ever found in real estate were deals that other people just passed on because it was hard.
And so you learn the most. So the easy way is also the slow way. You do hard shit, you take the hard way, you put yourself in consistent, uncomfortable situations and challenges and scary, hairy deals that you don't know how to navigate, or you don't know if they make sense. And then you've worked yourself through all these things, which sharpen you and they speed up the process. And if you can come to terms with doing some hard shit for a short or long period of time, depending on how badass you want to be. I mean, I was just going to ask you, Dave, as you were talking, like I'm envisioning this 16-year-old version of you coming from this little fucking town somewhere in the middle of Utah that nobody's ever heard of. And, you know, your family's all blue collar, amazing, incredible people, but they didn't really equip you with like an incredible amount of confidence when you're 16 years old, I can imagine. So
when I was 16, just real quick, I ran away when I was 17 years old. Moved into a shitty little house with the roof falling in, and, you know, cockroaches and living off of ramen noodles and fast food. And like, it was, I didn't know anything about where I was going in my life. I just knew that, you know, my little brother moved in with me, got emancipated, and it was a mess. I just knew that I was going to do whatever it took to get out of that situation and to reset the standard and to completely change the game for myself and my future family. You know, Ed Milet talks about it beautifully, about how he's the one person in his family's, you know, legacy that's going to change everything, resolve trauma, reset the standard for happiness, success, legacy, right? And that was one thing that, for some, I don't know where I got that from, man, but it really fired me up. Like, I'm better than this. I'm going to change this whole game, and I'm going to do whatever it took. And I didn't know what that was going to be, right? Until I'm at Snow College, and that recruiting booth set up with Krispy Kreme donuts. Like, hey, you know, so I walk over, get
luring the kids in.
Yep. And then that evening, there was going to be a recruiting meeting at Fat Jack's Pizza, and they had free pizza. So I'm a poor college student, and I get a Krispy Kreme donut and free pizza. I was like winning show up there, and the guys show up in a Hummer and, you know, leather jackets. I'm like, oh, these guys got it going on, you know. And like, hey, come out to Chicago, you know. And I'm from Manti, Utah, and it's like the polar opposite. Manti and Chicago, Illinois is probably the two most polar markets you could possibly go to. Went to Chicago. Next thing you know, there, you know, there's a long story from there, but I kind of forgot where we're going with that, but
yeah, I was just talking about all the difficult situations that you put yourself into to evolve so quickly. Because this version of you that you are today, and even when I first met you 3 years ago, you've just continued to grow, and you've continued to put these huge obstacles in front of yourself, just 100% confidence, and it continued to level up. So the contrast between 16 years old and 40 something that you are today is a result of all those difficult things. And sometimes like people just don't understand that the easy route that they're taking is going to lead to a much more difficult life in the future. And some of us that have similar success stories, similar backgrounds, and came from rough places just came to terms with that finally. And it's time to put in some work and put some challenges in front of me so I can level up.
Yeah, there's a saying, I forget.
Oh, go ahead.
You guys are both going for a saying.
You probably got it, but it's
opportunity lies in the crisis, right? It's like when you're having crisis early on in your life, that's opportunity. But same thing you were just talking about real estate. The hairy deals are the ones where all the money's made, right? Where there's a crisis, there's opportunity to be had. I think most people avoid it. They look for the easy things to do, the things that are comfortable, and that's why they don't ever actually get the results they want, right? I used to have this saying that says, go the extra mile because there's no traffic there, right? Very rarely do people ever go the extra mile in whatever they do. And if you're willing to do that, there's far less competition, right?
Yeah, I love that, man. I think the quote I was going to go with is something along the lines of, you know, hard life, or hard life equals good times. And then, you know, easy life. You know what? You did it better than I forgot exactly. But
we know what you were going for.
Yeah,
because we've all heard this before.
Yeah,
you take the easy way. It's going to lead you to hard times.
That's right. You know, my motto in my life has really been: if anything scares me, it means I should do it. So if something scares you, it generally means you should just do it. And it's beautiful because it once you've done it, then it's no longer scary, and you no longer have this fear. You know, and in my life, I've literally just anything that scared me, I've done it, man. So, you know, skydiving 8 times, traveling the world, Mount Everest expeditions, you know, just whatever it is that, Ironmans, you know.
What about as related to business? Because I know that there was things early on for you with lack of experience that you were scared to death of, but you're like, boom, like that's that indicator that I've reminded myself of, is that when I feel that fear, that's my indicator. I got to go for it because I could go the easy route and end up like everybody else, or I can tackle this shit.
Yeah, I think fear is one of the greatest motivators. But I think a lot of times people fear doing things and failing at them. That's probably actually one of the largest fears people have. In fact, there's a study that, when they interview people on their deathbeds, the biggest regret out of the top 5 regrets, the biggest regret is not having taken their shots, not having tried, not having pursued their dreams.
But how bad has it been for you, Dave? Have you had some big failures?
I've had a few failures. My first 4 plugs that I bought was bad. I've had, that's a whole story.
But what's funny though is you say this, Dave. I think people do fear failure. However, once you start winning and you achieve your goals and dreams, all the stuff that we felt like was a failure at that time, that was hard, that was challenging,
that's exactly the place I was going.
In comparison to the reward, that it's hard to look back and go, that was a failure. That was hard because it was worth it, right?
I know that me personally, I will regret looking back at my life and feel like I hadn't taken my shots, that exactly. I didn't become the best version of Dave Allred because I was scared or because I was, because of fear. My bigger fear is that I have regret at the end of my life. And I can literally say I have a lot of lessons learned in my life, but I have no regrets in my life. And again, could I have done something differently? Hindsight's 2020. Absolutely, lessons learned. But to me, it's all about failing fast and failing forward. My daughter, she's 15. Yesterday, she launched her first business. I'm so proud of her.
Incredible.
She spent 6 months, getting it ready. She launched yesterday. She came home last night and she was just beaming. And I was like, I'm so proud of you. And I want you to know, her name's London. I'm like, hey, I want you to know, even if this fails and you make no money, I'm so proud of you. Like, that's so incredible. You had an idea, you took action on it, and now today you finally launched your business. And I think it's awesome, man. To me, that's living. I think that, and the truth is that you learn so much through failure. To your question, Jeff, I haven't failed at a lot of things, but I think a lot of that comes back to just that growth mindset. To me, there's a growth mindset or a fixed mindset. Once you have a fixed mindset, meaning that it is what it is. I am where I am. It's not really my fault. It's my parents' fault. It's my color of my skin. It's where I was born. It's, whatever, versus a growth mindset, which is literally taking full accountability, 100% on my shoulders. Where I am today is an accumulation of the decisions I've made in my past. And my future is fully predicated upon the decisions that I'm making today. And that's a powerful way to live life.
So good. Yeah.
But I think a lot of people are scared to do that because it forces you to take responsibility for where you actually are today.
Yeah. And the thing that I was thinking about as you were explaining that was that the failures that keep people from doing things and cause the anxiety and to get them all built up with fear in their head about all these possibilities. We just heard it from somebody who's had very little failures. And as much as you've accomplished and the wealth that you've created, the partnerships that you've attracted into your life, there's been very few failures. Like, all the stuff that's keeping people from taking action is a bunch of made up bullshit that's keeping them from reaching an incredible version of themselves that's possible by all these scenarios that you're making up that 99% of them will never happen. And then the ones that do, you'll look back on those things that do happen. I know I do. We just heard it from Dave too, that like those were the best lessons to learn. Like, if I wouldn't have gone through that, I wouldn't have known how to do it better next time. So they're not even failures. They're just these awesome learning experiences.
It's so true, man. I love it. It's so good. So it was scary going from Vivint, smart home to Vivint, sold, moved my family to California. I was like a total new chapter. It was scary. But it was great. 2 years later, when I decided to retire and go full-time in real estate, and, after 16 years of working at Vivint, and cutting that umbilical cord, my only career I'd really known was that, and then going completely away from that, going full-time into real estate, that was scary, man. Like, that was I had 4 kids, a full family I'm supporting,
Wow.
And then, my partners and I brought Topgolf into Utah County. And, I'm a real estate guy, but Topgolf, and that's a whole nother world, entertainment, hospitality, And that was honestly, like, that was so scary, man. And, I raised $8 million, bought 9 acres of land, and we dove into that project and ended up being a pretty tough, five-year project. And, but fast forward, I learned more about commercial real estate development in that process than I would have learned by getting a master's degree in that. And now it's this amazing facility serving the local community. And my investors and I are making great cash flow on a monthly basis. And it couldn't have worked out better.
And you stuck with it, dude, because I remember I was there when in 2020 when the deal almost fell through. Like, you thought it sounded like you had moved on past it. Like, it was almost completely an afterthought, and you stuck with it. You kept working with those guys and proving to them that this was an incredible market. And then, dude, me and Jeff have been through similar stuff with real estate deals and learning about the Airbnb market and doing developments. And you're forced to learn this stuff. Like, this is all riding on your shoulders. It's my deal.
Well, especially when you raise capital from your friends, right? Like, I have about 350 to 400 investors right now, and they're all my friends. It's my social network. It's guys I've worked with in door-to-door sales, and the people I really care about and I love. And so when you raise that kind of capital, you have a project like that, and you're pivoting, looking at different opportunities and whatnot. I mean, that's a lot of weight to bear. But it also brings out the best, right? Again, iron sharpens iron, and it makes you show up.
I think, as you say that, Dave, I think most people, the reason why they never really go through these challenges, the people that we hear their stories, they win big. It's because they're willing to lean into the pain, right? It's uncomfortable to grow.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always said that you're going to have the pain of change or the pain of regret. You talked about regret. And most people, because they avoid pain, they get to the end of their lives and they've got this tremendous amount of regret, which is still uncomfortable, versus guys like you who leaned into the pain of change. You're willing to grow, you're willing to get uncomfortable. And because of that, you live this life that most people only ever dream about, right? That's because you didn't avoid the pain. You leaned into getting better, doing what you had to do, even though, you may have had some downtime, some failures, but overall you won because you just kept going through it and you kept going through that pain of change, right?
Yep. And then fast forward with Axia, kind of same concept. It was, it's this big idea of creating a real estate fund. And I'd done about a dozen syndications on multifamily, went really well. Then the fund is like, that's a whole nother world, but, and that was scary. Honestly, it was like, I don't know how I'm going to do that exactly. But fast forward 3 years, it's been incredible. We have over 125 million in AUM, and it's going really, really well. And I love my partners, love everything that we're doing right now, both with family, with business, and everything. But it is a result of just doing really hard things along the way and leaning into that growth mindset and the delayed gratification. And I do want to just a quick plug to door-to-door sales, which is, man, the skill sets that we learn doing door-to-door sales are so invaluable. It's not just the money, but it's learning about negotiating, salesmanship, psychology, interpersonal development, time management, mental or personal development, salesmanship, leadership. Like, those are all soft skills that are so invaluable in the real world, in not only in business, but also just in life. And as a father, as a husband, even in real estate today, I mean, negotiating, that's day-to-day skill set that I use every single day. Communication,
absolutely,
investor relations.
And how many examples have you seen of that play out in your life and your acquaintances, the people that you've seen through all those different offices that you worked with, the guys that you started with, and if you can't even list off the amount of incredible success stories that have came out of that group of people that you were around, and the things that they've taken from door to door, the skills, the confidence, the momentum that you create in your life. And this is, everybody that we bring in here, it's so cool to be able to be a part of such an incredible opportunity for them to do something, knowing the skills that they're acquiring while they're here.
Yeah, two things come to mind real quick. One is, the most fulfilling thing for me after a 16-year leadership career is still when I see those success stories and the ripple effect of how valuable that's been for these people to where they are today. And they're outside of the game, they're not knocking doors anymore, but they created something special, business, financial freedom for their family. And we run into a guy and like, dude, thank you so much for that first door you knocked with me, or for that that sales training on this, or for that special conversation, that interview you had, it happens a ton, and it's so fulfilling, man. Like the money is awesome. It really is. It's life-changing, but that's where the real fulfillment has come, is from that value creation for those people that you care about and that you're leading. The second thing I was going to say is, out of all those skill sets that I mentioned, I think salesmanship is perhaps the most profitable, but by far the most important of all of those is the leadership. And I mean, everything goes up and down from leadership. And again, as a father, as a business person, as a husband, it's as a friend, as a business leader, as a thought leader, leadership is everything. And I don't know of a better way to create and refine leadership than what we do in this industry, because you can read a book or listen to a podcast and hear a great business principle, and literally that same day you go and you apply it right with your sales team, or on, with your, in your life. And it's the rubber meets the road. It's not sitting in a college listening to a professor reading out of a textbook and trying to remember that. It's literally
putting it in real life practice.
Go time.
That's one of my favorite aspects of business, man. And I've been able to see that, people can we know guys that did not pay all that much attention to the leadership side. And they were go-getters, man. They could put in the hours. They were great with people. They'd close a lot of deals, and they spent years and years doing that. And then they get to the end of that career when the trajectory was clear for them, that they could have gone in real estate in leadership, but they chose to just lone wolf it. And the contrast between the people that are intentional about leadership, because you can make a lot of money in door-to-door and never have to step into a management or a responsibility outside of just going out and personally producing. But the guys that do, all those guys that you're thinking about, that you've impacted their lives, they chose that path of not just personally producing, but recognizing the opportunity. And I would imagine those 400 people that you have invested in all of those deals came from that universe, came from all those lives that you affected, all those people that now had money and had seen a consistent version of Dave showing up with integrity and incredible morals and ethics. Like, I want to do business with this guy. Am I right? You said that all your friends, most of them came from there, I would assume.
Yeah, no, you're right. That the majority are all my prior sales managers, sales leaders, sales reps, and whatnot. So, and I'm really grateful, and I'm honored to have them now as investment partners. Previously it was creating value for them in a leadership capacity, and actually helping them recruit and how to increase their sales production, et cetera. And now it's helping them to invest their capital wisely and to compound that and to create, passive income and financial freedom on that front. So it's just a different way to create value for them. But to your point, yeah, nothing more fulfilling, man, than having these guys that worked with me 20 years ago, 15 years ago, and now we're still doing life together, doing business together. One of my favorite quotes is that who you do business with is who you do life with naturally, right? It's that proximity. And so now to be able to create value in a different way for the people I really care about, it's been awesome, man.
It seems, Dave, that you've got this blueprint. I don't know if you ever looked at it like this, but as I sit here and listen to you talk about this, you got this blueprint that you used in door-to-door sales, but then you took into syndication. Now you've taken it in a fund, and it seems very similar, right? It's like you've done these similar things, even though they're really three totally different businesses, right? But this blueprint of your skill sets, your leadership, the trust people have in you, those things have all helped you from one business to the next business to the next business. You've done a great job of explaining that today. I just wanted to point it out because as I listen to this and I just listen to your story and hear you talk about these different phases of your life, I hope people hear that you've given them the blueprint of whether it's door-to-door, whether it's leadership, whether it's syndications, whether it's a big real estate fund, or just building a great family and a great life for that matter, that this really is a blueprint for getting anything you want out of life in any area you want out of life, right?
Love that. Yeah. I mean, my all-time favorite. Thank you, Jeff. My all-time, and by the way, I have so much more to learn. It's so far to go. I feel like I'm just getting warmed up. I think that, I'm 40, turned 43. Look back when I was 30, I was proud of what I was doing when I was 30. But look back now, I'm like, man, I was playing small. When I was 40, I was like, dude, I'm doing so good. Looking back at it, I'm like, man, I was playing small. I hope that when I'm 50, I look back now, I'm like, I was playing small. I hope when I'm 80 looking back at 70. I'm like, dude, I was playing small. And I'm 100 looking back at 90. I'm like, dude, I was playing small. To me, life's about just finding the best version of yourself, right? Like that's ultimately the purpose here. It's and having no regrets along the way. I think that, Jeff, if I had to kind of peg maybe how I've been able to do that, it goes back to that lifestyle design and just having, page number one is my purpose statement. And I put a lot of thought into it. And it's just 2 paragraphs of what, my life, basically what I want people to say about Dave Allred when I'm gone, right? My family, my friends. I actually have my eulogy in there as well. And it's literally a great practice to think about, what do you want your kids, your neighbors, your family, your friends to say about the impact that you made on earth? And so, also the next one is my core values. And then I have my non-negotiables. So powerful, guys, to have outlined, 5 to 10 things that you won't do. We all say what we're going to do, but have you ever taken time to say what you're not going to do? Right. So having, and then, my time, my schedule, my family first, just having some of those key things really identified, which, by the way, it's not easy to do. It takes a lot of internal kind of deep work. But I promise you, that is the best ROI or the best return on investment that you will get is spending the time to figure out those type of things. Purpose statement, non-negotiables, core values, your guiding principles. That makes the rest of these decisions so much easier because it's based on purpose and there's intentionality behind it.
100%.
Right? Is this aligned with what I want to build for me and my family, in my life, my legacy? Versus, oh, this sounds cool, sounds fun. I don't want to have FOMO. I'm feeling motivated today. Yeah, let's do that. Right. And that's how most people live life. It really is. Yep. It's day to day. It's very reactive and very much just based on emotion versus on purpose and intentionality.
So I had a quick question for you, Dave, here as we wrap up, because there's some people listening to this that are further in the process. There's some people that are really early in the process. When I first started hearing this stuff from you, I know it was overwhelming because I was practicing some of these philosophies and some of the principles and things that I'd learned from previous mentors. But when we started meeting and I got to hear your explanation of this and the intentionality that you put behind your life and the example that I had of what it could create, it overwhelmed the shit out of me, to be honest. Like, you're a very intellectual guy. You've been doing this for so many years, but I want to give people some perspective here that just because Dave is this advanced doesn't mean that you have to expect that of yourself out the gate. This takes time. And maybe you could leave us with something that people could start with. Where do you start? How do you get going on this? If you don't come from a background, if you've never been exposed, well, now you have, and here's where to start.
So I would reiterate what I said earlier, which is it's totally normal that we don't have this already in place, but that's not a good excuse to not have it going forward. And so the first thing I would say is if you go to my website, daveallred.com, download the free Excel spreadsheet for lifestyle design. I actually kind of dumbed it down a little bit. So it's pretty, hopefully it's pretty easy to use. And get started with that. And that's a living document. For me, it was something I came back to the first Sunday of every single month. It was on my calendar to come back for an hour. And it would change, it would evolve, right? If I listened to a great podcast, a good book, if I had a good mentor and he gave me something that's like I want to incorporate in my life, I go in my lifestyle design, I add that to the lifestyle design. So again, it's a living, evolving document.
And still evolving this many years later.
And it still is today. Absolutely. So that's the first thing I'd say. Second thing would just be, again, have it in writing. I think that's really strong. And we all have these ideas in our mind, but if it's not in writing, it's hard to hold ourselves accountable to that. The third thing I would say is embrace the delayed gratification. It's going to take time. Be patient with yourself. And the fourth thing I would say is proximity. I think there's power in proximity. So if you're around the people that are already where you want to get to, like for me in real estate, I want to be a big multifamily guy, right? So I found the very best multifamily guy in the country, and I talked him into partnering with me, right? It was actually, I had to pay him first as a student, as a mentor, but then eventually was able to start doing deals together and co-GPing multifamily syndications. And I learned so much from him, right? And today, now in the fund world, my proximity is around other real estate funds that are doing a lot bigger things than what I'm doing today. So I think just having that proximity where you can look at somebody, eye to eye and be like, okay, hey, if this guy's doing it it can't be that hard, right? There's real value in proximity, being around those people. And then maybe just kind of wrap it up, I would say number 5 would be just really leaning into experiences. And this is a little bit of a tangent, but everything I'm doing right now in my life, even in my professional life, is very focused on experiences. I think the experiences are the new economy. Whether you're a millennial or a baby boomer, people are willing to pay for and they want experiences. And so, Topgolf, it's the most experiential, sporting entertainment you can get. With Axia, we actually call it experiential investing. So every month we do experiential webinars, right? We teach, we pull back the curtain, we show guys how we do what we do. In my own personal, all my restaurant brands, Jefferson, you've invested in a few of them with me as well. They're very, very experiential. And so I think just, really making it fun. You got to enjoy the process. So don't be too hard on yourself as you get started, but make it fun. The more you can tie some dopamine or some experiences or some lifestyle to it, it makes it more fun and more fulfilling, and therefore
I love that, man.
More enjoyable.
It's so interesting, Dave, how much of my belief systems today have came from our time that we spent together. I want to thank you for the impact that you've had on my life and the so many thousands of people I know that you're aspiring to help and continue to grow that list of people. We've invested hundreds of thousands of dollars together on these deals that you've brainchild, and it's changed my life and my understanding about finances and my own wealth building process and tax mitigation. So I've enjoyed having you on, brother. And listen, you guys, glad you made it this far in the podcast. Dave is a living, breathing example of the success that can come from you getting involved in sales and surrounding yourself with great people. He just gave you the blueprint, the whole blueprint. And all you've got to do is just find your version and start executing, start taking action. I asked Dave right there at the end for some simple first steps that you can take, because it's not going to happen overnight. You got to start developing the discipline, the habits to start taking steps in the direction of your goals, getting ultra clear on what those goals are, like down to minute details in the color of your effing house and the car that you want parked in the driveway and how you want to feel walking into that house. Dave does it better than anybody, the way that he describes it, and you can see the results that it's had in your life. Why not you? Listen, why not you? So start taking
Jefferson,
the steps.
You mentioned, I got to wrap up one last thought. You mentioned the house. So here's a crazy cool story, right? So my wife and I, we built our dream home in 2017. But I found in 2020, I found an old Excel spreadsheet in my Dropbox that I'd created back in 2010. Okay, so 7 years before we actually built our home. And I'd outlined 25 things I wanted in my home, right? 2 trampolines, sports court, pool, hot tub, fire pit, all these different amenities and whatnot. 25 things in a spreadsheet. 7 years later, we built our home. I completely lost that spreadsheet. It was gone. I did not reference it after that point. In 2020, I found that spreadsheet, and we did 24 of the 25 items were incorporated in our home. And it was wild to me because we didn't even, I didn't see that list at all, but I'd made that, I'd envisioned it, I'd put it out there with a lot of purpose and intentionality. I wanted my home to be like the place for my children to have, to be proud of, where they can create social, a social life there and be like the place to come to, so we can be involved in their social life. But anyway, on 24 to 25 things, exactly what we'd planned out 7 years previously, even though we'd forgotten about it. So again, it goes back to just that intentionality. Jefferson, I want to also congratulate you on the new book and on the massive success you've had since when we were doing executive consulting several years back. It's been fun to watch, man. And I'm honored to be on your podcast.
Appreciate that, brother.
And much love.
Thank you for coming on. And thank you guys for checking back into another episode of Just Real Quick. Remember, this is all up to you. You got to live an intentional life. It's talked about in so many different success books, and you can see it in an example in every success story that you'll ever come across, is you have to get intentional. Start today, start small if you need to, and let's ramp this thing up and go all in. We'll see you guys next time. If you haven't already, like and subscribe to the podcast. Just real quick, leave us a review, share it with somebody who you think needs to hear this, which you know somebody that this applies to. Send them a quick share, and we'll see you next time.